Before we get started today, I just want to recognize our sponsors who help make today possible. Lois Mans with Farmers Insurance, Greg Mans with Upright Construction, Adam Dregge with Complete Realty Solutions, Jason Hudson, Red Maples Construction, and our newest vendor, Nate Tomlin with the Tomlin Heating and Air. If you guys know anybody who has a question about real estate that we could solve, please contact us here at Restore STL so we could talk. If you want to wake up, take control of your life, and use real estate effectively to build a purposeful future, please check out our upcoming arena programs. And now, today's episode of The Kevin Duragi Show. Hey friends, Kevin Duragi. Welcome to The Kevin Duragi Show. Today we will be talking with Nick Thiele. So Nick is a guy that I have seen for a while around. We get to talk at some different places together, etc. You're going to love this one. I think I'm even understating that. Like, he has such raw, unfiltered wisdom. A lot of it comes from common sense. He's mirrored a lot of his business and kind of development on the opposites. So instead of I want to be this, it's I'm not this and this and this. But kind of his whole development, it is fantastic. He is echoing basically our coaching, our lifestyle, all these things, the life roadmap, without even knowing that that's what he's saying. And it's awesome. He has so much. His stories are great. His wisdom is great. Guys, you will love this one. And hopefully I can connect you and introduce you to our new friend, Nick Thiele. Here we go. Hey, friends, it's Kevin Duragi. Today we have our guest, Nick Thiele. Nick, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
Good. And it's not Thiele, it's Thiele.
No, to everybody else, it's Thiele, but correct. As you guessed first, it's Thiele.
Nailed it. So, I mean, people with fun last names, especially when they have a bunch of vowels,
Mhm,
it's like you get a whole wide range of things. So,
for sure.
Duragi just, I mean, you see it, you're like, oh, that's totally how to say it. So, I
Yeah,
totally,
I can
totally
imagine.
get it.
Heard some too.
All right. So, Nick, you are here in St. Louis with us. So, man, that's awesome. We've been on similar platforms. Gateway to Freedom is what comes to mind. I've heard a little bit of your story, and it's fantastic. You are a shining testament of kind of what the transformation process really looks like.
100.
When I got into, I know part of our stories kind of overlap here. I got into construction thinking I needed to know that to get into investing. And I also, I've been part of rehabs and general contracting and all this stuff. And when I found out in the process of flipping houses, I was really working on myself. And then I hear your story and I'm like, holy shit, that sounds very similar to a little bit of your storyline. And now you're a huge, I want to say success, and your outreach and your mission and all this stuff is just doing good.
Yeah,
But you also haven't lost any of your roots of kind of how you've come here. So, all that said, Nick, let's rewind it and say, Nick, how did you get into real estate?
absolutely. I mean, I am where I am by sheer determination to be something. You know, in all honesty, it could be real estate, it could be any business. I'm here because I bet on myself. I had faith that I could make something out of nothing, and I pushed and I pushed and I bumped my head and I got up again and I pushed and I went right back down and I just kept on getting up. And that is what got me where I'm at today, with what I'm able to achieve today.
So that said, you say bump your head, right? So we say the school of hard knocks or things like that. Like,
Yeah.
did you go to college? Did you have an alternative route? How does
Yeah,
that?
so I tend to tell people that if there wasn't a hard way to learn things, I wouldn't know a damn thing. So I dropped out of high school twice, dropped out, went back, decided I was right the first time, dropped out again, and got my GED. And then I ended up going to Vatterott back when that was a thing. They no longer exist, but I went to school there for electrical mechanics to learn residential electrical. And even that was just by chance, that I even went to school for that. So it was actually my mom's suggestion Uh, she said electricians make good money, so I went out and then enrolled the next week.
Dang. At least you were listening to, good advice there.
Yeah, for
Uh,
sure.
so if that's the case, have you always been mechanically inclined?
No, 14 years ago, I had never had a hammer in my hand. I wasn't raised with a dad, so I was never taught how to build. I was raised by a single mom in a two-bedroom house in Ferguson. So 14 years ago, where I was 21, 22, 23, somewhere around that. I was living in my mom's basement, sleeping on a mattress on the floor. Uh, I had my first son, who's now 13, on the way. I was laying on my mattress, looking up at the ceiling. I had my kid on the way. I never had a dad, so I wanted to be an amazing dad, and that already had kind of messed up because me and my son's mother weren't aligned. We weren't getting along. It wasn't going down the path. Um, I remember so vividly just kind of having all this go on as this young kid that, I say young kid, I was in my 20s, but I was still a young kid. Having all this going on, looking up at the ceiling at night, and I remember thinking like, "Man, you don't know shit." Like that was my crashing realization. This is where my world caved in. Like, you wanna be a great dad, you don't know shit. You know nothing. You don't know how to get a career, you don't know how to get a place, you don't know I mean, the extent of my knowledge at that point in my life was I could go to a busy road like, Limburg or, like, New Florissant, and I could walk up and down filling paper applications out to be a cart boy or, to be, like, a sandwich maker at Subway. Like, that was the extent of, like, my worldly experience at that point in time. And so it was just this crashing realization that I knew nothing. And so how I was ever gonna be anything for my son and for what I had to do with literally no knowledge of how to navigate the world in a sense at all. And so, that's when I just went upstairs, virtually the next day, and I said, "Mom, what can I do to make money? What can I do?" And she said, "Go to school to be an electrician, go to a trade school." I said, "Okay." I drove my little beater car up to the closest trade school, which was the Vatterott in Berkeley, which I don't know how many people know about Berkeley or the Vatterott in Berkeley, but it's not exactly conducive of the most educational environment that you could possibly ask for. And I had no idea how to enroll in school. I had no money. I had no experience. I had nothing. So I just literally walked into this place and I said, I want to go to school here. I want to go to a trade school to be an electrician. Please help me. A lot of my a lot of my steps start off with I know nothing. Please help me. And so that's where I started off there. They led me to the, financial aid office, and, like most things in life that I go to do the first time, I completely failed. I filled out a bunch of paperwork on this computer with no help, and it came back like, you can't get financial aid, your mom makes too much, you can't go to school here, this, and this," all these reasons, um and I was not having it this time. So I went up there and I said, "What can I do? How do I fix this? I got a baby on the way." So with my baby on the way, the financial aid people told me to write them a letter that said that I had a kid and that I was 50% in their life, and they added that to my, request for, funding to go to college, and that is what just barely pushed me over the line because this lady was willing to help this kid that was standing there like, I got nothing, I know nothing, please help me." And so they gave me away, and I went, I wrote the letter, brought it back up there. This is all in a matter of, like, a week or 2 where I will not give up. Like, this is gonna happen somehow, or you're gonna point me to somewhere that it's gonna happen. And I got the aid, and, while my son was, being created and on his way, I worked 2 jobs. I worked as a radiology assistant at DePaul during the day, and a sandwich maker at Subway in the evenings, and then I went to school and took night classes, um, to be an electrical to learn electrical mechanics, right? I knew nothing about being a good student. What I did know 100% is how to be a horrible student. So I legitimately took my experience that I had, which was being a horrible student, and did the opposite of everything that I had done back then. So I was young, I was in this college, never been in this environment before. Uh, so I sat in the back of the class and talked to everybody but the teacher in high school. So I sat in the very front of the class in the desk right in front of the teacher's desk, and I sat right there. That was my step one. Step two was I didn't listen to shit the teacher ever said while they were talking. So step two is I made sure that every time the teacher spoke, I listened. I had a little recorder that I put on my desk to record what he was saying. So I said, okay, well, if I miss something, I got it. You know, never did a single lick of homework. I got as far as high school as I did, just taking tests and doing in school work. Out of school, you didn't see me crack a book. So I just made sure that whenever I got homework, I went down to the little library they had in the college, and I did it right there. I did it right as soon as I got it. You know, no overlap in time. So I just took everything I knew about being horrible and flipped it. And then 18 months later, I graduated with a 4.0, perfect attendance. I was on the president's list. I knew everything there was that, you know, to know about residential electrical that they taught. And that was how I kind of got my start in even doing any sort of construction work, mechanical work, or anything like that. It was just like that.
Nick, 4.0 is fantastic in anything.
Thank you. Thank you.
Um, so I just compiled your secrets to success here. And you said it for school, but really just think of conferences, think of meetups, think of anything. Sit close, listen, right? And then do it immediately.
Yeah.
Think of a coaching student, think of any dude, lean in,
Yeah.
like
100.
show up, freaking listen, ask questions, and then do it immediately. Take massive action.
Yep.
Dude, love it.
Never missed a day. Showed up every day, on time, early, stayed late. I mean, just some of the basic fundamentals of what I felt like a successful person would look like. Having no idea what an actual successful person looks like. Because I mean, I come from a family, man, where I was raised by a mom, a grandma, and two aunts, and that was it. You could fit my whole family on a big couch pretty much my entire life. None of them are entrepreneurs. None of them are, you know, wildly, you know, financially successful. I mean, everybody has their own gauges to success. And my mom did a great job, you know, raising me and giving us everything we needed. But she was a single mom trying to raise a very energetic young man. And it was hard, man. And I damn sure didn't make it no easier. And I know that for sure. But I had no experience of what success looked like. I just knew what it didn't look like, and that's so I used what I had.
Do you know how smart that was? I didn't know what this looks like. I just used what I knew the opposite.
Yeah,
I mean, dude, that's actually fantastic. j- the, I mean, smarts are common sense, right? Things that
yeah,
aren't so common anymore. I know what I did to be unsuccessful. How about I do the opposite of each one?
yep,
Hey, I looked at the people around me. This isn't a match. What would success look like? So, uh, I don't know if you listened to when I talked about it, but I did a talk, and it's also a podcast episode about Eads Bridge. It is 3 points: dream, forge, finish.
mhm,
So you just described what that dream or the vision work is, but you did it by the it's not this, it's not this, it's not this.
mhm,
And then you kind of made the inference it should look like this. You dreamt, like you said it, what does a successful person look like? Well, they're the ones who do this. Like you saw it. Your vision, your dream was, hey, this is what a successful person looks like. And then you became it,
yep,
right? So my 3 points is dream, forge, finish. Usually I focus on this middle one, this forging moment, but you just described the vision process in a very unique way. So I want to give you tip
Thank
tip of the hat there. So now the forging moment. So each bridge here in St. Louis connecting east and west is kind of a huge deal, really, and especially because it's still here.
you. Mhm.
At the time this was made, was post Civil War. There's three main building materials. It was iron, it was wood, and it was stone. Over a mile long, had to be so tall, fast currents, all this stuff, right? Those building materials could not do it. It failed. Uh, and that's what had to happen was the turning of iron into steel. And the way you do that is extreme heat, right? You got to add that. We use the term pressure in our
Yeah.
lives, right? But you got to make it hard, right? So you got to give it a crucible. You got to take out the impurities or bad habits, and you got to put in additives or healthy habits. Now, and then finish. A half finished bridge doesn't get you over the river.
Yeah.
So, like, if you didn't finish your cap class, it wouldn't have helped you, right?
That's right. 100%.
Um, but then let's look at that forging moment, right? What was a Nick forging moment where, I mean, you just did one here, like, I am not gonna lay on my mattress in my mom's basement with a kid on the way with no money doing this, this, this. Here's another path. But I feel like you got more to you. Um, so what would you say was your forging moment where really it got intense and you decided to make a new way?
Yeah. Um, see, well, I mean, when I started this business, uh, things were pretty intense, going for because I started as a handyman pretty much. All I knew was what I got out of college for, which was electrical. So I started doing light switches and mailboxes and pretty much anything you could pay me to do. I would just put my name and number was all over Thumbtack and Home Advisor and all those places, and I would get a job. Then I'd go home and I would YouTube that job, and I'd watch 4 or 5 people do that job in 4 or 5 different ways, 4 or 5 different methods, and then I would decide, well, can you do that? And then if I felt like I was within that range, that's what I would do. Uh, and so I became kind of the general handyman and eventually progressed that into enough money where I was able to quit those jobs and just kind of be the handyman. But the struggle was keeping that dedication to the grind every day when I really wasn't sure, what would the next steps were in, construction and business development. So it's just one step at a time, kind of growing and learning and trying to figure it out. So, another definitive decision I made in my day was I started to notice that I was basically bullshitting a lot. Like I would get a job and do a couple jobs for 2, 3 hours a day, and then I'd spend 6 hours doing nothing, playing video games or watching TV. And I realized pretty quickly, like, okay, this is not the formula to get you where you want to go. What is? Well, I have no fucking idea. I have no idea. I have no idea what the formula is to get me where I want to go. So I said again, I said, okay, well, I've gotten a very far off disciplining myself and the ability to put discipline on myself and then follow through. So one of the early stages was I said, okay, if you're serious about this, and this is your job. Well, what do you know about a job? You do 8 hours a day, and so what are your 8 hours going to be? I said, okay, well, I'll work 9 to 5 every day, and I won't allow myself to do anything that does not relate to what the vision is, what the goal is. And so from that point forward, I spent 8 hours a day dedicated to only what the vision was, which was growing this business. So I'd be doing jobs or bidding jobs. And then if I wasn't doing that, I would not allow myself to do anything other than related to the business. So that became a lot of putting advertisements on my truck and going to sit up in my truck at Home Depot outside the pro desk. So 2, 3 times a week, I would take my truck, I would sit in it, and I would go up there and park in a really, easy to see spot, and I would say, "Okay, well, I'm just gonna sit here in this car for an hour or so and, pass out cards or talk to people coming out." I created door flyers, and so I walked around neighborhoods and hung doors that I was the maintenance man. I would follow up on thumbtack leads, different things. And if I absolutely had nothing to do, I would make myself sit down, and that's when I would watch the YouTube videos to educate myself on parts of the jobs that I hadn't got yet, or pieces of the jobs that were more involved than what I had already been doing, to continue to educate myself, because now there is pretty much nothing that I don't know about completely rebuilding the inside and outside of a residential home. But it started with me only being educated about the electrical side, conventionally, through school. I literally taught myself everything else that there is to learn about the entire construction process from YouTube experience, scuffed knuckles, and head bumps. Um, and that's where all this knowledge came from. Is I went out here. I never had a mentor. I never had a boss that was in construction. Everything there is to know, YouTube University taught me during that 8-hour period.
Goodness gracious. Um, I'm actually surprised you never had a coach or a mentor in this stuff.
No, I've always considered myself a bad student. And so I have really particular ways I like things done. I have really particular ways I like things communicated. Uh, and I just never found somebody. I mean, recently, within like the last 8 months of my life, a guy named Brian Schroeder, who, if I had to pick a mentor that I followed to kind of emulate my business culture from, because we were in a little bit of two separate, two different businesses. The culture that that man has managed to create in business, I idolized like my entire career as I kind of watched him. It was just very different. His people, he was so friendly. He wasn't angry, he wasn't frustrated, he very calmly ran his business. People loved him, people loved working for him, and I wanted that. I didn't wanna, like, run people micromanaging and being upset all the time. I wanted people to wanna work with me and to wanna be a part of what I had going on. And so he mentored me over some more advanced aspects of, like, real estate and stuff within the last 6 months or so. But from, 12 years ago to, 8 months ago, it was all just hard knocks and head knocks.
I love it. Well, you talked about the knuckle scrapes. It's like, yeah, man. Like, uh,
Absolutely.
do you still swing hammers?
100%. I'm not as much anymore, uh, but I love to get in there and train my new guys on the way I like things done. I love I love building, I love creating, I love designing these homes. I love making sure that whatever we produce is got the same level of care and integrity to build what we build is what I build. So I'm still heavily involved with the stuff in the field, and I don't know if I'll ever be out 100% because I love it. I got my fully stocked equipment trailer I could pull up, and I can do anything you want in the house at any time, and it's kind of who I am. They call me the rehabber. You know what I mean? I'm gonna be a multi-million-dollar home flipping business here real soon, but I'll probably always wear that rehabber hat.
There's something to it, man. You buy something and it's broken, and when you leave, it's beautiful.
Yeah,
And it's
absolutely.
like, there's something wonderful when you're like, I did that.
Yep, gives you
Uh,
those fuzzy feelings on the inside.
when I was doing 10 houses a month, like when I was working in volume, um, it wasn't me touching hammers or anything like that.
Mhm.
Like that's how I developed, right? And when you go to being hands off and all you're doing is pushing papers, you lose connection.
Yeah.
Um, and I was only getting called on the bad days.
Yeah,
"Hey, this broke or this happened or this," like, "Oh, woe was me," not
yeah,
the, "Yeah, man, we
the
rocked
fun
it out.
days.
It worked," like, you don't get those calls, right?
You
They
become the
keep that.
problem solver.
Yeah, they keep those for themselves, and it's like, all I get is, "Oh, they're calling again.
Yep,
Ugh," and I like knowing the neighbors. I like knowing the house. Like,
yep,
the houses have vibes, man.
yeah, 100%.
Um, and then when that moment when it turns, like, I don't know how to describe it, I'm gonna try, but there's a smell or a like, we took a it looked like it would be a freaking torture house,
Mm,
and then suddenly you look at it and you're like, "Dude, this is $1 million house."
yep,
Like, there's a certain point where you're like, "Okay, I see it
yeah,
now."
yep, 100%.
Um, what is that, Annabelle, or, you just see the things and you're like, "Ugh," and then
Yeah,
there's a moment where you're like, "Okay, here we go. Like, this is nice."
yep,
Um
the creation process for sure, and it's you gotta have the vision to be able to see it when you're walking some of these places.
Hey friends, it's Kevin. I just want to say thank you to Greg Fans of Upright Construction. Greg does all my exteriors for siding, roofs, fascia, soffit, gutters, all that stuff. He is fantastic. He is on it. He works well with insurance. He works well with investors like me and homeowners. Highly personable, huge customer service. You're going to love him. Huge personality. So Greg said if you mention Kevin Duragi show, that he'll knock off 10% of your labor bill. So how is that? That's fantastic. Greg is old school, so call or text Greg at 314-374-1343. And if you're going to do it upright. Back to the show. So you've mentioned vision. So how big does vision play in your life? Like, having that dream, having that, like, success looks like this. This is, hey, I had a lot of BS in my day. I was playing video games or watching shows, or you're like, what? That's not a normal person's answer. You know that, right? Like, you're unique, and your vision or your dream work is huge. How did you learn about that?
Man, I didn't. It's just like it's in me. Like I have this burning desire to continue to grow. That's the only way I can really describe it. Uh, Last year was really hard for me. Last year was probably my worst year in business. I got 10 guys, I got 9 bands. We run about, 40 houses a year, full interior remodels that we do, and I've done over 300. And every year we grow and we grow and we grow, and that's by design. I keep moving that post, having a very clear vision of where you want to get, so you can then act accordingly and then design your life in the way you need to design it to look like what it needs to look like to get to that vision. Without a clear vision, you have no idea how to put your foundation blocks in place to get to that vision. And so I've always grown and I've always moved the bar every time. I went from the maintenance man to the bathroom remodeler, from the bathroom remodeler to the home remodeler, from the home remodeler to the specialist, investment rehab remodeler, to my own investor, to access to private money, and now I buy all my own properties. Now I'm the home flipper. So constantly moving that bar every time I meet one of those goals. The first step is like, okay, pat yourself on the back. Now what's next? And last year, was probably my worst year. I was super backed up on projects that I shouldn't have bought, and then I shouldn't have bought them, and they went worse than they were expected to go. But I think more than bad projects, what I realized last year is that I had kind of peaked. Like in the process in which my business had operated, I had reached the max payload of what I was able to achieve as a one-man band, and that's pretty much what I am. I'm a one-man band. I design all my own stuff. I go out there and I market myself, and I bid all my own projects. I look at my own projects to purchase. I do all my own accounting. I do all my own scheduling. I do all my own hiring. I do all my own rehab design. And then on top of the investment side, I'm the lead contractor where I manage the process of 10 different construction sites at one time with 10 guys. I have some organizational tools that I use, but I'm still just one guy with a big bag and a busy, and a lot to do, you know? And last year was the year that I had realized, like, shit, I can't, in this way, I can't do anymore. And that was super depressing for me. I I I couldn't really see a light at the end of the tunnel anymore. I had hit the bar and I didn't know where to move it. And I sunk into this really, really depressive state for like 4 or 5 months, the end of last year. And the only thing I know how to do when that happens to me is freaking work harder. So I started working 2 shifts. So I would work with my team in the field Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And then when my team went home, I would actually go to another one of my projects and I would work there to catch us up. And then I would come home at about 10 o'clock at night and I would spend an hour or 2 in the office doing computer stuff. Then I'd go to sleep and I'd wake up and I'd do that all over again. And, I did that for like 3 to 4 months until I was emotionally exhausted, physically exhausted. I was crying, like, daily about, like, the most randomest shit, like, my emotions were just on 1,000, um, because I was physically exhausted, I was emotionally exhausted, I was scounging every corner of my life for an answer of what was next, and I saw nothing, and it beat me down. It beat me down because this fire says you have to keep getting taller and going farther, and, I had no idea what to do anymore.
So what did you do? Because obviously something changed.
So, man, Brian Schroeder reached out to me. And this is I don't come from a place where people reach out to you. I don't come from a place where people give you help. I come from a place where, like, you're in a room full of 10 guys and you gotta watch your pockets. You know what I mean? I come from a place where, if you learn how to get ahead, you gotta watch who's around you so they don't take it from you or, do something to you to stop you. Like, I just come from that's where, from 16 to 22, those were the kind of people that I hung around, and that imprinted on me a lot in my youth. That's kind of one of the I think you could flip that and you could attribute that to some of my personal success because I said, well, I guess it's going to have to all be on me. I'm going to have to figure it out all on my own. And I did that for 10 years. Um, but Brian Schroeder, he reached out to me because he saw me, like, basically crying on Facebook, lashing out. I think I made posts about, like, selling my business and, like, I was just he knew that wasn't me, and he said, "Nick, come talk to me." And I was like, "Okay." What else I really admired the guy. What else did I have to lose, And, he invited me to his office on a Sunday morning. It was like the very next Sunday. It was all just he's very matter of factly. He's not gonna talk to you about thoughts. He's gonna act. He's gonna come talk to me. Let's do it as soon as you're available. So I went in and I talked to him for 4 hours on a Sunday morning, and I just poured it on him. Uh, I was in tears. I was laughing. I was just at the end of my rope at that point. I was struggling financially with these projects. I was struggling, mentally from an ownership standpoint on what did I do. I mean, I was in such financial danger at that point that I was almost going to have to cut my team in half, and I had 10 guys. And that was another thing that was putting a lot of emotional distress on me because I love these guys. These guys are my family. It's my personal responsibility to make sure that that money is there for them every pay period. bottom line, no flex, no room for error. And so all that was weighing so hard on me. And we talked, and he said at the end of the conversation, he said, "Nick, I don't do this. I don't mentor, but I'll mentor you." And he put a price on it, and I don't know if I'm supposed to say the price, but I don't he didn't tell me not to say the price, so he said, "Nick, I'll mentor you for $1,000 a month." And I was like, "Fuck, $1,000 a month? Fuck." Like, I get freaked out about, like, 59.99 subscriptions I'm adding onto my house at this point, like, and this man just said, "I'll talk to you for $1,000 a month," and I had no money at that point. No money. This is Nick thinking about cutting his team in half, physically exhausted, doing 16-hour days, and this man just said, "Nick, I'll talk to you for $1,000 a month." So I did the first thing that I always do, and I tried to put the brakes on it. I said, "Okay, thanks for the offer, I'm let me think about it, da 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 da." And then as I was spewing this garbage out of my mouth about, like, deflecting his offer, this fucking voice just screamed out the back of my head like, "What are you doing, stupid? Take the deal. Like, what do you have to lose? You could make $1,000 a month on top of whatever. Like, you have nothing else going right now." So I literally stopped mid-sentence and I said, "I'll do it. Okay. I'll do it. Sure. Whatever you want." I don't he could have said $10,000 a month. Um and I probably would have said, "Whatever, sure, I'll do it." And this is fast forwarding a little bit because him and my wife have a great relationship. But 5, 6 months afterwards, him and my wife had lunch, and they're talking about some stuff that she's doing, and uh, he told her that because he doesn't do the mentorship thing, he told her that he only charged me for the mentorship. Busy He said, "Because the type of man that I am, if he had given it to me for free, I wouldn't have taken it seriously." And that, like, hit me. I was like, "This freaking guy knows me," because he's right. I wouldn't have took a handout. I wouldn't have if he woulda offered my help, I woulda slowly phased away back into my own little turtle shell, where I feel like I have to do everything myself. But because I was paying for it, I looked at it like he I was paying for a service that he was gonna provide, and even though it was just the experience, the guidance, and the conversation, I looked at it in a different way, and it didn't hit me until she told me he said that, and she was like, "I don't know if I should tell you he said this, but," because he doesn't need my money. Like, the last thing Brian Schroeder needs from me is my little freaking $1,000 a month. His 5 hours a Sunday that he gave to me to speak is worth much more, in my opinion, with his family than my $1,000 a month did anything for him. So, uh, that was what he did, and he really, really helped me. I mean, he gave me some books to read, which I hadn't read a book since high school, he gave me some mentality books to read. He gave me some business books to read, and I started reading. And again, I took that seriously because my coach that I was paying he was giving me goals. He was giving me these things that I didn't have, and he just said, "Here, let's create a vision. Let's go over your business. Let's figure out what the different pieces of your business are." So now we were really starting to zoom in on my business and break it apart and really see how chaotic it was. Here's a book to read each month that we're going to talk about, and we just started to move in that direction. And he really helped me kind of see my way out of that little cave that I had kind of put myself in with my own mind.
Dude, that's beautiful.
Yeah, it was
Uh,
he's an awesome guy.
so he was on, I think he was, right at the beginning of season 2 for us.
Mhm.
And I remember I was re-listening to his, because when you're in the conversation, you're having a conversation.
Yeah.
I listened to his and I'm like, there's so much freaking wisdom that, you're just like, he was telling a story, but you're just like, damn. that's good. Like, oh my gosh, that applies to this. That's
Yes.
uh, he's he's fantastic.
Yep.
And he shows up like I have events, right? And Bride, what you're saying, the man will come and sit in events with you, and it's like you should be running all of this.
Yep.
Yet he'll come and support you, or he'll come on the show, or he'll do, and you're just like, dang.
Yep.
And
He
he really,
genuinely cares.
he's great.
Yep.
Uh, but then I will say, let's boil all that down. Finding a mentor, finding a coach, and then even that, finding somebody who cares about your success
Yeah.
is unique, is special, and it matters.
100%.
Because we've all had coaches, some in all different levels,
Mhm.
but it's the ones that actually care about your success, but also they need to touch you where you're at, not, you know, um, you could tell the coaches that just want your money.
Right. Yeah,
It's like,
for sure. The ones that just sell you the program.
yeah,
They don't figure out where you are and, kinda help you dig into what you need to take that next step. They just sell you that pre-built program that they have already, kinda in the back pocket.
I was at this is early in my career. I won't use his name, but it's nobody in our circles.
Mhm.
Uh, and it was one of the big speakers, and he's like, "If you buy this higher level, I'll give you my cell phone." And I remember going like, "Woo, I could get his cell," like, "Whoa," all the magic. And then I'm like, "Wait, so what? Are you
Yeah.
gonna pick up?" Like,
Right.
like, or is it gonna be like, delete, like, not
Yeah,
gonna listen to this
exactly.
one?
How many of
Uh,
your cell phone numbers have you sold? Do you have
yeah,
10,000,000
it's like,
people calling you?
this is weird. But he was also like, "Hey, I have a full-time job. I do this on the side." And, I was like, "Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Is that the guy I wanna follow?" Because you become a little bit of any coach or any mentor that you follow. You come a little bit, you pick up their personality traits, you pick up they like a certain food or they do things a certain way, and then you find yourself like, "Ooh, I'm going to."
Yep.
Uh, and the fact that you did all this, a lot of this, Nick, you did on your own. Like, "Hey, this is what success looks like to me." So in my head, you saw somebody that was successful, and then you saw yourself as that person and then modeled yourself.
Yep.
Dude, I love it. And then Schroeder, nice pickup.
Yeah, thank you.
I mean, if you're gonna pick one, that's a pretty good one to pick up.
100%. I had said that for years, that if I had, ever even thought about having a coach, it would have to be somebody like Brian Schroeder, who had done what I'm looking to do, and it did it in a way that aligns with my core values and how I wanna get there.
So let's rewind this back. So when you're running a construction company,
Mhm.
how did you branch over to the real estate? Like, what was that moment? What kinda how did that first deal happen?
Yep. So, um, I kind of I grew a decently sized maintenance company, enough to where I was able to hire a guy. And then so I started doing like some shower tile. And so then the shower tile took me to like bathroom remodels. Okay. So then I was doing some homeowner bathroom remodels, and I got to know more tradesmen in the industry. And, I got my name all over out there on Thumbtack. And so some of these investor types started coming to me, and I started to kind of navigate my business towards the bigger stuff like the bathroom remodels. So what I did, I was so busy being the handyman that I was just constantly running, and I didn't want that. That's not the business that I wanted. My business was slowly unfolding in my mind. Um, but I didn't want that. So I started directing my business more towards the bigger stuff. And so the bathroom remodels got me to some meeting some investors and doing some bathroom remodels for those type, and learning more about like that industry of buying and selling and doing houses like that. And so I said early on, like my business would slow up big time in the winter. So I said, here's what I want to do. I said, I want to be one of these types. So, and this was before I even really worked for any investors. I said, what I'll do is I'll figure out how to buy a house. I'll buy a house. I'll use it as like our hub for our maintenance stuff in the wintertime, and we'll go to this house Monday through Friday and we'll work at this house. And when we get maintenance jobs, we'll just bounce out from the house and we'll do the maintenance stuff. And so I kind of originally the thought was to use it as a main home base as a project throughout the wintertime to keep us going. And so again, boiling it very down to a very simple concept, I had no idea how to do this, how to get into real estate, how to buy a house. This is before I knew Brian, before I knew Faster House, before I knew about hard money. I had like, I think I had like $30,000 in a savings account that was put up. And I said, okay, I'll use that. You know what I mean? Because you think at that point, and then I was gonna fund the rehab on doing it myself, and then fund it with some of these maintenance jobs that I was doing, and then some credit cards. And so I literally went home and I Googled best real estate agent in Missouri. And I started calling real estate agents because when I had YouTube like how to buy a house, it told me one of the things it told me was be persistent, be annoying in a sense, like constantly keep calling these guys back. And I was like, well, shit, I can be annoying. That's easy.
Checkbox.
Got that. So I Googled best real estate agent in Missouri and literally just started calling numbers that came up on Google. And I would call as many as I could. And then the ones that would actually have conversations with me, I would write their name and number down on my little makeshift desk that I had at the house. And I would say, okay, these are the ones I'm going to follow up with. And then so after that, daily, if not every other day, these guys got a text or a call from me. Hey, how you doing, Nick? Remember that conversation? Yeah, still looking. I looked at this today. I looked at that today. Send them some stuff to comp because I was still trying to figure. Hey, and I was sending them stuff that I'd find on like Craigslist or like YouTube, or not YouTube, but like Facebook Market and like all these different places that classifieds and stuff like that. And so I just sending them real like beginner level, everybody passed on it a million times kind of houses, and just asking as many questions as I could. And one guy came back after months of me bugging these people. So this one guy called me back. His name was Chris Raisler, I think it was.
Yeah.
And he said, hey, Nick, these two women have this house in St. John. It's as is. They called me to list it, but I don't think it can be listed. I think it's right around in your price range. Are you interested? And if that was like the first lead I got is of hell yeah, I'm interested.
Damn right.
So I met them. He gave me some numbers. And I met them over there, these two ladies. I walked the house and I had no idea what I had never even done a kitchen remodel at that point. The extent of my knowledge was like paint, bathrooms. And I was like, it's like the same thing. So I went for it. They agreed to the offer of 30K, and Chris kind of set all the paperwork and the contract stuff in motion for like almost nothing because he was going to be the agent that sold it for me. So he kind of connected those dots. I think we just did like a quick claim deed. I met them at Denny's and gave them a $30,000 check, it was cashier's check straight from the bank. And they signed this quick claim deed and gave me this Ziploc baggie full of keys. And that was it. I had taken every dollar that I had saved up and just paid it to these ladies for this little 2-bed, 1-bath house in St. John. And I was going to figure the rest of that shit out as I went.
Hey friends, it's Kevin. I just want to say thank you to Red Maples Construction. Yeah, Jason Hudson and Dave have been fantastic. They do all the rehabs when we come in and flip these houses, either for rentals or for repair, rentals or rehab. They're the guys that come in and just, I know it's taken care of because they're on it. So I just want to say thank you for what you guys do. They even do residential housing. So if you have something else that you're doing, they will help you out at there as well. Give them a holler, 314-312-2147. Thanks again, guys. Now let's get back to real life real estate. And how did it go?
It went horrible. It went absolutely horrible. The information the agent gave me, in the beginning, was like it was a $150,000 house. It was absolutely not a $150,000 house. I knew nothing about, like, a budget, so I did, like, porcelain tile, granite countertops, like glass mosaic backsplash, huge, nice kitchen layout, the nicest. It's like a little piece of Lake St. Louis in St. John. Like I did like an over the top remodel. Home came out beautiful. If it's one thing I can do, that I've always been able to do well is build something nice. And home came out beautiful, but all of the information surrounding it was completely off. So finished the house, gave it to Chris Raisler, and I expected like 5-star service at that point for this little St. John 2-1. Like knowing what I know now, like it was just a basic little entry level home. You pinch it out on the market, it does what it does. But I'm like, Chris, I want an open house. I want to make sure we
Yeah.
advertise. I want signs. I put signs at the top of the neighborhood, the bottom, open house. I was like, Chris, you're gonna have cookies there and some balloons on the porch, right? And all this stuff. And he schedules his open house for me, I guess, just to appease me, and I go to it. So I pull up to my own open house where the agent is, and it's like nothing there. Nobody shows up. It's his agent's assistant is like some weird guy. It's just kind of sitting on the porch of this St. John house. Nothing happens. So I leave like 45 minutes later, and nothing comes of it. And then the house sits on the market and nothing comes of it. And I'm like, "Oh, fuck, is this how this is supposed to work? Like, oh my God, like all my money is in that. Like, what's going on?" And we sat that house sat on the market for like 5 months and did not move. Um, I was foolish enough, like throughout this process of me spending all my money, buying this house, completing it, right? One thing I was able to do was complete it. And through the grapevine of people that I knew, that made it back to a guy named Brian Schroeder and a company called Faster Funds Lending. And way back then, I got a connection made between me and Brian Schroeder and Tim Grimmett. You mentioned him earlier.
Yeah.
This was back around the time where Brian and Tim were doing some educational stuff together. And so I got a connection that connected me with them while I was doing this first one. It's on a street called Susan. So I call it Susan. While I was doing Susan, before I figured out how bad Susan went, I got a connection made between me and Brian. Brian set up a meeting with me. Um, I showed up at Brian's office before it was in Newtown, back when it was at the St. Charles building.
Okay.
I had on a full suit. I had on a leather briefcase with
Huh?
me, just like a lawyer. I'm talking about full on briefcase, right? With files and all of my stuff from my, receipts from my business and all of the stuff I had for Susan. So I sit across from him and Tim Grimmett in this desk, and I put my briefcase on the table, and I open it up and gotta start pulling out my files, and I just start giving him my fire, my completely um inexperienced lack of conventional knowledge in the industry, just fire. Like, I'm gonna do this, and this is what I did, and I got this house, it's worth this, and I'm gonna go there, and this is my plan, and very confident. And anytime I have one of those meetings, that's how I want to present myself. I don't want to present myself as a business opportunity like I'm incapable or, not motivated. So I pour the fire on. And I can only imagine now like what he thought sitting across from that kid. Um, but it did something because about, a couple weeks later, he invited me to a house in St. Charles that they had in their business that they were wholesaling. And this was like a $200,000 house in St. Charles. And he invited me there. And I go from like all my $30,000 in St. John to this 200, but I'm like, I'll meet you there, Brian, but I don't know what the hell I'm gonna do with this thing. He's like, just meet me there, Nick. I'm like, you got it. So I go there and we walk the house, and I'm like, nice house. He's like, you think you could do it? I was like, hell yeah, I could do it. But I don't think, I got this other one on the market. I'm waiting on my money. I don't really know how I would do it. He was like, I'll fund you to buy it. I'll give you all the money for the rehab. It'll go in an escrow. It'll go in a draw process. Basically, like if you want it at this, I'll fund you the whole purchase and rehab. And all you got to do is finish the process. That's where he educated me about hard money and how all that stuff worked. And at that point, all I heard was like, this guy's got a house and he's going to buy it for me. And then he's going to give me money to fix it. So I won't have to fund it myself. And then I'm going to have this huge, nice house out in St. Charles. And so, you know what I said? I was like, hell yeah. Hell yeah. I want it, Brian, for sure. Write it up. And I got into that while this whole Susan mess was going down. Right. So I'm all gas, no brakes. And so I'm fixing this. I may be jumping around a little bit, but it connects. And so now I'm sitting on this Susan house on the market, completely depressed with how that process is going, losing my ass. But I got a bunch of money in escrow and a new house, and I'm working on it. And this agent is doing nothing. I'm getting no showings. Uh, and I'm on a life raft, right? I'm doing what I know. I'm fixing this house and I'm sitting on this other one with this Googled real estate agent. And that's all I know at this point. So that's what I'm doing. And while I'm fixing this house, it's on what was the name? It was Susan, started with a W. Westminster, I don't know, something like that. But while I'm fixing this house, this lady with a stroller walks by. Her name's Becky Heineman. And she's like, hey, what you doing? And I'm like, fixing this house. We're going to sell it. She's like, oh, I'm a new real estate agent. I'm just getting going. I'd love to sell it for you. And so I'm like, you're a new real estate agent and you're talking to me about wanting to work with me? I was like, for sure. Hey, listen, I got this other thing going on with this other guy. Can you just take a peek at it for me? And she was like, yeah, sure, no problem. So I sent her the information that, how we listed Susan. She came back. She was like, Nick, this thing is listed like $40,000 more than this house is worth. And I was like, what? She just dropped this bomb on me that like, you're way overpriced for the market that you're in. And she came back with all the like, this is what we could probably sell it for. So I went back to the first guy. I'm like, listen, this isn't working out. Just let me out of my agreement. Take it off the market. Let me out of my agreement. Let's just wash our hands at this. And he was like, sure, whatever. Gave it to Becky, and she listed it at the right price. 2 weeks after Becky listed it, I had an offer and the thing was sold. Um, After 11 months of my life, and we finally sold it, I made, I think, a whopping like $600 when the whole thing was said and done, and I paid myself back and I paid the house back. So 11 months, I made about $600. But I was in that second one, and now I know Becky. And now Becky is like got my best interest in mind and working with my team. And I finished that second one, and Becky listed it. And when we sold it and everything was paid back, I made $30,000 and I was freaking hooked. I had never seen numbers that big on one piece of paper since math class in high school. And getting that check for that one thing and being able to fix that whole house, I was absolutely hooked with real estate. I'm like, I control this environment. I get to do anything I want. I get to design it. I get to play with styles. I'm basically my own boss and my own worker in this construction. And then I get all this money on the back end. Oh, sign me up, baby. And so I had decided at that point that I was full blown real estate investment rehabber, and I was going to cut all the homeowner stuff out and strictly focus my business on the investment community.
Dude, the fact that you met Schroeder, you met Grimmett, you met Becky, like I remember so I got to sit with Damon Rainey, REI Black Book.
Hmm.
So when I was the young Nick there, who
Hmm.
was like in the construction and all this stuff, I was sitting in front of him at that time. I didn't quite have the briefcase, but very similar scenario, like, and it's just one of those like it reminds me of do you remember the scene in what was it, Avengers or something? Like they go to Wakanda and they bow before T'Challa. He's like, we don't do that here.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I'm like, yeah, like
Yep.
we don't wear suits to meet these guys anymore.
Right.
We don't like
No. Yeah.
but it was
That showed my green around the collar for sure.
and that's well, no, I mean, we all had our green, and that's
Yeah.
where but he's like, "Hey, what was the last house you flipped?" And I was like, "Well, I did this one," and he's like, "No, what did you do now?" Because I was trying to be the flipper.
Hmm.
And he's like, "Hey, man, flippers flip.
Yeah.
What are you flipping?" I'm like, "Oh, shit. I've only been doing bathrooms and kitchens,"
Yeah.
and it's like, "Flippers flip." Like, I'm interested, but get into it. And it's
Hmm.
like, "Okay." Like, that was a little bit of that fire, like, in the belly. It's like, "All right, if I'm gonna be this guy, I need to be that guy."
Yep.
Like,
100%.
and the fact that go with the goers is the other thing I heard was, "Hey, people are moving, people are doing it, get out there and start doing it."
Yep.
The best time to buy a house is after you just bought a house,
Yep.
1 makes 2, 2 makes 3, 3 makes 6, 6 makes 12, like, it really does grow, and
Yep.
it grows by action, not just sitting on your couch.
100%.
Put yourself physically out there.
Yep.
What you said in the very beginning, sit close. Like, to me, that's show up.
Yep.
Um,
100%.
so are you an agent now?
I'm not. So I have an awesome real estate. I like to that wouldn't excite me. I like to do things that excite me, that make me happy, and I like to put people in a position to do things that they do well and excite them. I have an amazing real estate agent named Carly Yates. She works directly with my team. She sells all of my stuff. She helps me like walk these properties to make sure they look good. She sets up the staging. She deals with pretty much all my back end headache stuff. I couldn't do it without her in place.
Dude, that's fantastic. We're actually winding up here, but let me ask you a couple wrapping up
Mhm.
here. If you could turn around and give the young Nick, you know, laying on his mattress, looking at the ceiling rafters there, if you could talk to that guy and give him some advice, knowing what you know now, what do you think you would tell yourself?
Man, it's the journey of from there to here that has made me who I am, and it's been a process. Um, so I would probably just go back and tell myself, you know, you're going the right way. Trust the process, because I wouldn't want to avoid any of the pitfalls that I've gone through, because they turned me into who I am. I was a completely different person in all aspects of who I was back then, and it was the struggles that turned me into that person. But one thing that I think I would have preferred is I would have told myself to trust the process a little more and not wear it so heavy during the hard times because man, as entrepreneurs, as go-getters, we can dump on ourselves so hard sometimes, and, I used to really beat myself up. I mean, I almost used it as fuel to my fire, where if I made a mistake, I would just grind it in to myself that, I had made that mistake and that, like, almost expecting perfectionism from myself, uh, and to avoid those mistakes. But now I look back and say those mistakes are what allows me to be where I'm at to say what I have to say. But I wore it pretty heavy over the last decade. It's been kind of emotionally exhausting from the beginning to the middle, um, wearing those mistakes so hard. So I would tell myself to just trust the process, that you got the right idea, you're headed the right way, just keep going and try to enjoy the challenges as much as the wins.
Easier said in retrospect than going through it. Like,
Sure, for sure.
but that's where like the mind shift switch that we talk about, it's sometimes reframing.
Yeah,
And it's you're saying so much of what we talk about here, and it's really, really awesome. It's hard to say, "Hey, that sucks," but embrace that, Susan. Embrace the, like, yeah, you should
yeah,
be happy, man.
yeah, for sure. In the
You
moment,
see, like, I just see me
yeah.
leaking here, but
Yeah, it's very hard to see in the moment, but the experience kinda teaches you that, and so enjoy those things.
and then, all right, so on those gut-wrenching days, right, when the world is crapping on you and you gotta just get your umbrella, right? Is there a quote? Is there a verse? Is there a book? Is there a song? Is there a poem? Is there something affirmation-wise you tell yourself to kinda snap out of it? What do you tell yourself?
100%, 100% there is. So, um, what I've used since the very beginning, is I've used the serenity prayer. I tell myself the serenity prayer, and that helps me it kinda grounds me in my faith and helps me focus on what I can control. And so whenever things would get really, really, really hard, and I was at that point where I was crying and I was ready to give up, I would say the serenity prayer over and over and over and over again until my body would react and it would start to climb out of that dark headspace. Because those positive affirmations, they do things. Your words have power if you use them in the appropriate way. Maybe not the first time you say it, but again, like, I would ground myself and force myself to say it until I felt different and, make those words ring true, understand that those are true. Please grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference between those two things. And I felt like with just that little prayer, it helped me focus on what I could do and not so much on what was happening or what I couldn't do at the time.
I love it. Um, I really I was gonna save this for the wrap up, but I'm just gonna go ahead and say it in front of you. Like, so we have the tools. If you go to kevindragi.com, we have 2 sections of tools, and you literally have said our process, which is awesome. So part of it is we have the snapshot. So one, we do it for the personal self,
Mhm,
right? And there's 3 main areas: relationship with yourself, relationship with others, relationship with things. And then there's 12 total spots. Think of the life wheel, right? A lot of people have them.
mhm,
But when you were talking about your wheel, right? You talked about emotionally, you're here. Financially, you're here. This is here. This is, and whenever you get down to zero, it doesn't matter how high some areas are. A zero pops the tire. It's broken. Like
yeah,
that is a catastrophic failure.
mhm,
And but that's rock bottom. And the good thing about rock bottom is it gives you a place to step up to your future self, right?
Yeah,
Because you don't listen, you don't do the hard things, or you don't have an agent for change until you're freaking grinding the wheel, right?
absolutely.
It is a benefit. Well, it goes two ways. You either snap and go one way, or you actually turn around and make a different decision, right?
Mhm.
Because we're hard headed, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Um, and then you said it on the other side, we have a snapshot for getting into real estate, like real estate investing, real estate in general.
Mhm.
Okay, it's financially, where do you sit? You know, credit score, money in the bank, W-2 income, like what do you got, right?
Yeah.
Uh, so there's that aspect. It's what do you know? Do you know a trade? Do you have a license? Do you have what do you know? And
Mhm.
then it's who do you know?
Mhm.
And I just listened to your story. I know construction. I don't know this. I don't have that. I have a little bit of this. And then you met a couple key people, which gave you the other things,
That's right.
right? You started with what you had, and then the right people saw it and plugged you in into a bigger world.
Yep.
Dude, that's awesome. But you are also cognitive, whether consciously or unconsciously, of what you had to offer.
Yeah,
You
for sure.
put yourself in the room, you took the leaps, right? You
Yeah.
did the work, which is so awesome, especially when you're self-taught in so many of these ways.
Yeah.
Um, Man, I am impressed talking with you. I love your story. Thank you for sharing your
Thank
life
you.
with us here. And Nick, I just anything we could do to help and support you. Totally love your message and what you do.
Thank
So
you.
thank you for jumping on and be a part of our show here. And hopefully many people will benefit from your conversation today. So thank you, Nick.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you.
Told you you're gonna love them. So before and afterwards, we have these little chats that I just get to talk with them. Uh, I feel like I've known this guy forever, right? I feel like I'm talking to a little bit of myself with him. Just I love his development. I love his grit. I think that's a word that was it Brene Brown? Was she the one who came up with grit? But just his determination and showing up. I could only see in my mind's eye Tim Grimmin and Brian Schroeder, both guests on our show, sitting there and he comes in with a suit and briefcase. I love it. I love it. He dropped out of high school twice, right? In his 20s, he's going to become a father. You know, that moment laying on the floor, I could see it looking up at the ceiling rafters going, what do I do? I got to take care of this. His determination, his grind, his fight to get financial aid. The way he got through tech school was doing the opposite of what he knew to do in high school. I'm going to sit close, i.e., be present. I'm going to record the lessons. I'm going to listen. I'm going to take notes. I'm going to do my homework immediately. I'm going to do it, take massive action. Did all that and graduated with a 4.0. Amazing for a high school dropout to be able to turn around and just freaking nail it. And then he just kept learning, right? His value of dedication to learning, U2 University, all this stuff. Like, what does a successful person look like? And then he made it. I love it. Dedicated to the grind. He noticed there's a lot of BS in his day, so he cut it out. Talk about willpower. Well, I'm going to just sit at the Home Depot. I'm just going to do this. That'll be part of my marketing. That burning desire to grow. Hey, I got to go higher. I got to go higher. I got to go higher. And then he just went. You know, I got to my ceiling, right? My max load. So what did he do? He worked harder. And what happened? He was breaking. And he was given those moments. And then when the student is ready, the coach appears. And in this case, Brian Schroeder. And then he took it seriously, just like he did trade school. Trust the process. And then the serenity prayer. Like, talk about just, gosh, wisdom in everything that he's saying. And I love this. I just bet on myself and I had faith. Nick, I love it. Thank you for jumping on. Thank you, everybody, for being a part of our family here. I love it. So, guys, have a great day, and I'll see you next week. Hey friends, this is Kevin. For more information for our vendors, just go to our link tree or any of these little clicks here. You could get it. I'm going to finish you off with some positive affirmations so you could get ready for your day. I am a leader. I make a difference. I add value. My words have power. I know God and He loves me. I am a leader. I raise people up, not tear them down. Today is my best day. I change lives. I live abundantly. I am a money magnet. I am alive, and I am a force for good. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. And remember, dream big, act accordingly.